Thank you. Good morning. As Lane said, I have a twofold journey today, and I'll try to make this short since Lane's already taken up all of my time with a sermon. Wonderful sermon, by the way. But anyway, as most of you know, in late June, I went with a group from Miami, mostly medical students from Florida, to India. And this time we went to a place called Hyderabad. This started years ago when I was asked to be as a consultant for this particular group of people, and it has developed over the years and now is a complete LLC organization with many different facets of its ministry. You'll see a picture of the team there together. There were 20 of us, and as I said, mostly medical students. If I were preaching a sermon on this, I would call it the mingling of the Spirit, because in the process of letting you know a little bit about that team, I want to tell you a little more about St. John's history with India. But one of the things that you'll see, and if you'll put the statistics up there, we saw around I can't see that far. I have to go to this. We saw around 500 and something, 1,500 patients during that week. We joined our efforts with doctors from India and nurses, and we're able to see that many people. All in all, almost 4,000 people saw doctors. And the reason why I'm up in that number there is because sometimes they saw 2 or 3 or maybe 4. They may have seen the ophthalmologist and the dentist and several others along the way. Marvelous, marvelous team, energetic young people who I think will make it a point to make mission a part of their lives for the rest of their careers as medical people. But now let's go back to St. John's. St. John's has a long history with mission and a long history particularly with India. When I was the director of Louisiana Volunteers in Mission for 15 years out of the conference office, St. John's always seemed to be a part of many of our mission teams all over the world. And in a way, India got started here at St. John's. And the reason for that is a woman by the name of Saroj Welch. Now, most of you know Saroj and Carlos. And if you do, you know that when Saroj says something to you, your body goes limp, your brain turns to mush, and you repeat back to her what she said. And she called me at the office one day and she said, "You'll be taking a mission team to India." And I responded by saying, "I will be taking a mission team to India." And that's the relationship that we all had with her. But many people got involved. The Clavenas, the Tonys, of course, and Judy Barbay was one of our key India mission team leaders. And over the years, we did many things. We did medical teams. We worked at the orphanage that's a part of Clara Swain Hospital, which is called, wonderful name, the Baby Fold. And there were about 80 children in that orphanage. We worked very closely with them. But we also did a lot of work at the Satal Christian Ashram, which is up in the northern part of India. Usually, I would say on every India mission, and there were about 30 of those, there were at least 4 to 8 people from St. John's that were on those mission teams. Now, we rallied around that, and one of the reasons was because the missionary who was in India was a woman by the name of Lillian Wallace. And when I first met Lillian, she was in her 70s, and by the time her life passed away, she was in her 90s. One of my favorite memories of Lillian, to give you an idea of what kind of person she was in her early 90s. She was very unhappy with the way the mission team had stacked the luggage on the top of her Land Rover. And so what she did to correct the problem was to get up on top of the Land Rover and to repack all of the suitcases and the luggage while we were there, while the rest of us were gritting our teeth, afraid she was going to fall and the mission would have to come to an end. Now, I want to share with you a parallel story that kind of goes along with all of this. And that is, at 15 years of age, two young men by the name of Joel and George went to a Christian conference at the Satal Christian Ashram. Now, during that time, Saroj and Carlos were the administrators of that ashram. And Lillian Wallace was the youth director for the India conference, and she spoke. And these two young men came forward and gave their lives to Christ, and they said to Lillian, "So what do we do next?" And Lillian says, "Go to the United States and get your medical degrees, and then bring me medical teams." Now, we're going to skip 30 years now. And all of a sudden, Joel is eating dinner at his house in Miami. He's now become a practicing physician, also a teaching physician, he and George both, in two medical universities in Miami. The phone rings, and it's an unfamiliar voice, and it asks the question, "Where are my medical teams?" Lillian had tracked him down. And so he said, "Well, of course, I will go to India with a medical team." Because Lillian had the same kind of voice that Saroj did. And so they said, "Where to start?" And they said, "Well, you need to be in contact with a guy named David, who is the manager of a clinic." Now, David happens to be the same young man that when we went on our second team to India, and each of us decided we wanted to sponsor one of the children in the orphanage, David is the child that I began to sponsor. And over those years, David has gone to medical school and become a pulmonologist, has become the director of the Clara Swain Satellite Clinic, has also gotten married, has been, well, let me back up and say, also been adopted by me, has gotten married, which I went to India to do the wedding, adopted a child from the same orphanage that he had grown up with, and I went to India to baptize my granddaughter. And David said, "Well, I'll help you with the medical stuff, but you need to contact my dad because he's the one who does all the logistics." And so the Miami Indian medical team contacted me, and I got involved in the process. But as you can see, the intertwining that goes on there when you are doing God's work and following God's will. When we went to India this time, we worked with a ministry called Unicorpus. And Unicorpus is a ministry of physicians in India who also like to do the work on the side of helping the poor. And it is very thorough, and almost in every way, the Indian people get the same kind of treatment that they would if they were in an Indian hospital. And one of the things that our medical teams help to do is when there is a very serious illness, we are able to transport them to the hospital where there is a national medical program, and they can be treated with the same kind of care that we would have here in the United States with our hospitals here. So I want to thank you for making that possible. Your donations of your prayer, your money helped me to be able to go and to do that, and I'm very thankful for that. But it also means that you can go and do the same thing because they go every year. And whether you are a medical person or not, you're invited to go and to give your time and your love and your care of the strangers in another country so that they can live the kind of graceful and wonderful life that we are able to live. Another way that you can serve is at St. Mark's. After I retired, I wanted to be a part of this congregation because of all of my experience with this congregation during the time that I was doing the ministry of Volunteers in Mission. And one of the things that I introduced was going to St. Mark's for the homeless meal. We feed about 125 people when we go. It's sometimes higher than that, sometimes lower. It's a simple thing to do, and we join in the ministry of feeding the unhoused that St. Mark's has. We are one of their partner churches, and we go twice a year. The next mission is on the 22nd. We need some volunteers to go and help us prepare the meal and then to serve the meal. And so I'd like to encourage you to give that some thought and come and join us to be a part of that. There you'll see a picture of the last team that went. That was one that Lane and her family were able to join us on. And let's make sure that you're part of the next picture that's made.